All right, so good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Prince Mowa, and this is Focus on Liberia TV. We are here with the head of Secretariat at the Liberia Elections Observation Network. It's called Beyond for short. It's a network of a civil society organization here in Liberia. His name is Mr. Augustine S.M. Tamba. Mr. Tamba, welcome to this live broadcast. How are you doing?
Well, thank you so much, Prince. And let me say Happy New Year. I think since last year, this is our first interaction. But yes, I'm good. Thank God for life.
Great. How is Leon doing?
Leon is doing very, very good. We are happy that the election process actually went very well with our institution. We are currently at a point where we are consolidating our reports, both our election report and our overall narrative report on the activities that we implemented as an institution and as part of our obligation to our donor. We are actually doing that. We are also in the process now of looking deep into the future of our activities and how we can still relevant in terms of contributing to the democratic process of our country.
Great. So as we keep the ball rolling, I'm sure you in particular now have followed the aftermath of the elections. After elections, the legislature has to resume its normal work in consonance with the Constitution of Liberia. The 54th is now dissolved. We had the 55th legislature in place. But the interesting thing I'd like to get your perspective on is the speaker elections and the deputy speaker elections, that are the pro-temporary elections. As a civil society organization, what do you make of the leadership of the legislature? This time around, we have two opposition representatives heading the House of Representatives that come from the CDC. Councillor J. Kufa is a strong member of the CDC, a ringing member of the CDC. And then Thomas Fowler, who won in District 1 Lofakande, has won for the fourth time at the legislature. Of course, someone who gave breath to the CDC is also the chair, the deputy speaker. Then let's do it at the House first. What do you think of that?
Well, I will give my perspective to that in two dimensions. One would be from understanding what the balance of power will be like. And two will actually be looking at the political implication for having an opposition speaker and deputy speaker at the lower house, especially given our country's political history. So when you look at, in terms of power balance globally, you will tend to see that what happened at the legislature, and there was a very good scrap of power balance where you have the opposition taking leadership of the national legislature, especially at the lower house, giving global understanding on how power dynamics should look like. One can safely say that that was a very good exercise that we saw happening or taking place at the level of the legislature. Howbeit, the other dimension of it is that unlike other countries, our country was heavily divided on political lines in the 2023 general and presidential elections. And that division still remains very entrenched in our body politics. So it's not relatively a good sign for the Unity Party-led government to have an opposition speaker at this time. What basically most presidents try to do as much as possible to having a speaker from their party is to ensure that there are not much hurdles in terms of implementing the government agenda, because the speaker and the president in that case will have a common denominator, which has to do with his or her political party or their political party. and they can easily resolve issues at that level before coming on the national scene. But if you have a deputy, or let me say a leadership, that is the speaker and the deputy speaker, squarely from an opposition bloc, the administration, that is the president, has to do extremely well in terms of closely working with the speaker. The third dimension that I would want to maybe put the entire leadership of the legislature into perspective would be the fact that it is also a very good interplay for the president-elect, President Joseph Boakai, because then the speaker, in my mind, is more like a shadow CDC speaker compared to the deputy speaker. The deputy speaker is an entrenched seditious. So the speaker, as I may term him, as a shadow seditious, he came from the Liberty Party and the standpoint. And if you look at the configuration of the leadership of at the Senate level, where you have Senate Pro Tempore now, Ayomble Kanda Lawrence, who also came from the Liberty Party standpoint, where this current speaker also was a former chairman of the Liberty Party. I think if there are political consideration in that regard, the speaker might not be a very disruptive speaker. If if the president actually reached out to him and the president puts before the speaker the agenda for the country, he might not be that disruptive and no speaker. What I see eventually that might happen will be with the deputy speaker. The deputy speaker will be under constraint from his party to take a party mandate, and he is purely a sedition. In that case, he will want to be combative. He will want to prove that maybe the CDC can make a comeback in the next election, and he will be under that form of mandate to ensuring that there are some form of disruption at the level of the legislature to prove that the Unity Party-led administration have some fraud in governance, and that citizens can point to. That is, to me, the sticky issue for this administration. And if you will ask me, I would think that the Unity Party actually slipped, to have allowed the leadership of the lower house to slip off their hand. Again, there's the game of politics. Everything is currently resting on the shoulder of the president. It is the president's responsibility to ensuring that every national leader is reconciled as much as possible beyond political line and placing the country interest above every political stuff. So that is just my perspective with the leadership at the level of the lower house. And if you look at what happened at the Senate, even though Senate Pro Tempore Senator Kanga Lawrence was preferred, but if you look at the configuration, the current configuration was more or less based on political consideration. Senators who hold very key positions at the level of the Senate, and they are very influential also. So if you come to think about the legislative interplay versus their oversight responsibility over the executive, if it comes to a point where the legislature or the opposition legislators decide to be disruptive, it becomes a very challenging issue for the Boakai-led administration. So I would have thought, that the president-elect and the Unity Party-led government will have strived as much as possible to ensuring that they maintain the leadership of the lower house. And that was very, very key. That mistake, or what has happened that they have lost that house, they have to internalize what they can do or strategize on what they can do in order to keeping the lower house stable, to ensuring that government programs operate in a way that they don't get disruptive, or disrupted by action of the legislature.
Great. I love the two perspectives or three perspectives. One, in terms of balance of power, it's a good thing. But in our democracy, a country like Liberia, it's a very good thing for the ruling party to have the leadership of the lower house, merely the lower house, because it is the House of Representatives that provide the leadership of the legislature.
Sure.
A great one. So, with that perspective, what can you say that the flow? What can we see as a difference between the 54th and the 55th, looking at the leadership at the House of Representatives? Because I can remember those in the civil society had a lot of report on the legislative workings and how things were not effective. With this kind of leadership, what can we draw a dichotomy between the 54th and the 55th? What we foresee?
What I foresee in the 55th legislature will be a very entrenched, divided legislature.
Great.
If you look at the results of the elections, it says to you how close the race was, and there were other factors that interplayed in that elections. Those factors are not going to go away so easily. Those factors are going to remain because Speaker Fonatikova understands fully the implication of maintaining the bloc that made him Speaker. And that group of legislators will keep reminding Speaker Kofa on the political maneuvering at the level of the House. So as I see from outside perspective that there will be a divided legislature. However, given the power invested in the executive branch of government, the president can play a very pivotal role. And this is where the lobbyists of the president, the liaison between the legislature and that of the executive branch of government, can play a very key role. The president, in my mind, now need to start a very rigorous legislative engagement by every single legislator to be able to explain the country's agenda, what he envisioned to achieve for the country, and how can he partner with the legislature in terms of achieving this. The president needs to take that national responsibility to ensuring that happens. That actually needs to happen. And I'm confident enough that with the wisdom of the president-elect and all of what he has achieved over the period of time in the public sector of our country, that he's going to endeavor to ensure that the legislature actually fall in line, in terms of following development, because they themselves, representing the people, will want to see some form of development in their district, in their constituency, and they will have to support the president's agenda to ensure that the country develop holistically. But I think if the legislature decides to go highly political and disruptive, it's going to be a very challenging situation for the UP and the government.
That's a very great one. So, finally, as we transition to the second aspect of this interview, so it's clear now from what I'm getting from you that there was a slip on the part of the United Party to have lost the leadership in the House of Representatives, which is evident because I know that the House provides leadership, so any government, from the time I start following politics, any government want to have the leadership at the House of Representatives. Now, something that has not happened is the appointment of committees, which of course lies in the purview of the speaker. The speaker does the appointment, but he has also, informed his colleagues to submit their credentials. The appointment on committees will be based on credentials. What do you make of that? The second aspect of that question, besides the president, there are also United Party representatives at the floor, at the legislature. How can you, challenge them in ensuring that they work with the president as well, since they are on the ground, in ensuring that their colleagues fall in their line? What would be the message for them? So one, what do you make of the move by the speaker to say, before I appoint you, maybe as chair on way means and find out I need to see your credentials, how confident you are to make it chairman on judiciary, chairman on foreign affairs, submit your credentials. What do you make of that?
Well, if that is the move of the speaker, I think that move is in the right direction. I believe that our country must be run by competent individuals. It must be on the basis of your competence, your qualification, and what you are capable of doing, that you should be able to be appointed on some of these committees. One of the weaknesses of the legislature is its inability to provide proper oversight over sectors and entrusted to some of these committees. And that is from the background of not having a full understanding. If you are appointed, for instance, chair on concession agreements, and you don't have that background and understanding on how concession works are done, what basically you need to look out for, or what you need to ask hard question on, and as a legislature, you miss the point automatically. So I think that move by Speaker Fonati Kofa is in the right direction. All elected officials must be appointed on the basis of what they can be able to contribute to the overall governance and process in our country. It cannot be business as usual, because it is not only, they are not only representing Liberians, there are other parliaments that our legislatures also sit on. The more qualified you have a person, the more they are able to represent the country. The more they are able to represent themselves, represent the legislature, and represent the country and as a whole. So I think appointing people on the basis of their expertise is the first step to ensuring quality and leadership. Is the first step to ensuring that people performed and that they also are under obligation as legislators to be able to hold committees that they are going to be chairing, those agencies responsible, because they will be fully knowledgeable about the workings of those ministries and agencies, and they can be able to ask the hard question whenever they invite government officials at the level of the horse. Regarding the Unity Party lawmakers, they have a very key role to play
in terms of lobbying.
In terms of lobbying, in terms of even convincing their colleagues to join the Unity Party while they are still legislators. They need to guard the president's policies. They need to ensure that the president's programs and policy will have a face at the level of the legislature. They are more or less the liaison, they are the ambassadors of the president in that place. Why? Because they come from the party. And the party now, and this goes to the party chairman. The Unity Party chairman has to define that notch that Unity Party wants to leave as a legacy. Suggest that both to the president and that of the legislature. As a party, they need to distinguish themselves from what they are going to leave as legacy to this country compared to other parties in time past. One of the challenges that we have had in this country is the fact that the circuit of our government remains the same. And that circuit, that circuit is, once we take on power, we run the government based on a general expectation of the people. I believe that regimes that will be coming into government or into power, these regimes must meet a clear-cut blueprint for national development. And I believe that the leadership of President Joseph Boakai can set that foundation for our government. The UP-led government, currently under the leadership of Joseph Boakai, can be able to set national priorities that we can identify as a country that these are our challenges and these are the methods we intend to use to having or to achieving national development. And that has to be a country's program, so that regime in, regime out, that program, that national program remains. So, for instance, if we define road as a national challenge, and we define education as a national challenge, we need to enshrine that strongly in a policy and paper that government in, government out should look at the issue of road connectivity for our people, should be able to look at the issue of education for our people, electricity for our people. So the option now becomes the regime that takes power. If that regime come in and say, based on the country's priority, road, I think I can prioritize as a country and be able to with road connectivity in the country and so forth. So then that guides our national development over a period of time. So under a regime, we can now point to say it was this regime that connected all of the roads in the republic. We are not saying that you as a government or you as a regime cannot implement other programs. No, but we want you to define what national target are you hitting for our overall national development program as a government and as a regime, because government is continuity, regime comes in and regime go out. So as a regime, but the government needs to define that national priority. And those regimes that come in and go will be able to follow those national development so that in the next 15 years, in the next 20 years, as a country, together, combine all of these regimes, we can be able to hit our national development targets.
And you want to see that blueprint on our Joseph Boakai government?
I believe that the president-elect has all of what it takes as a president to establishing that blueprint, that national blueprint for the country. He might not achieve everything as a president, but he might leave that blueprint that other regimes might be able to follow. And that becomes the pattern of government in our country.
Great. Just quickly before we transition. So I saw the legislature, the formation of the legislature leadership in 2018 when President George Weah won. He was clear that I need the speakership.
Sure.
Give me the speakership.
Sure.
Don't play with it. You can take the deputy speakership, but I need a speakership. This time around, the president didn't really melt into that. He allowed the legislators to compete, even though he supported his candidate. But it was a tight competition where Fonade Kofa won 5 votes different. What's the difference between, the legislature, the two of them look at the legislature from. What do you think?
I think President Joseph Boakai played a more presidential role, if I may say. And I think even in as much as he wanted a speaker from his party, but I believe also in his wisdom he thought that the legislature could decide on who actually become their leader. That is the perspective into which I actually see. Other analysts might look at it differently, to saying that he as a president needed to be very firm in ensuring that he has a speaker that can be able to work with him. But again, in terms of what probably he envisioned for this country, where the tolerance of diverse views, and where people will be able to disagree to agree, on that basis, and forming or looking at the national interest of the country, above political interest. I think he looked at things from that perspective to allow the will of the legislators, to actually prevail. It's not a bad thing, if you look at it again from that perspective. Again, everything that will interplay at the level of the legislature, and it depends on the leadership that the president is going to play, and how also he's going to ensure that he influences the legislators from the Unity Party to ensure that his agenda at the level of the 55th legislature have a face and so forth. So I think from that background, he played that sound national leadership to ensuring that, okay, yes, we've won the presidency, we are at the verge of winning, again through our alliance the pro-tempship. Let's see what the lower house has, and if eventually it becomes again to our party, then we now think that we can move the party agenda. But I think Speaker Fonade Kofa can be a very good person to work with. Speaker Fonade Kofa, in my mind, will not be that disruptive speaker. As far as I look at him, the person that is much more and to be taken very carefully because of his political orientation and where he sits currently will be Deputy Speaker Thomas Fowler.
Great, thanks so much. So folks, if you're just joining us, my name is Prince Mowa. This is Focus on Liberia TV. I'm here with Mr. Ekotin S.M. Tamba. He's a head of Secretariat here at the Liberia Elections Observation Network, Leon for short, civil society organization here in Liberia. So as we conclude on this interview, Mr. Tamba, President-elect Joseph Boaga takes the hot seat on the 22nd, this coming Monday. Lots have been said, lots expected. We saw the campaign, we saw the election, even we saw one of the videos I'm still keeping, which are going to be uploading on Monday morning, is doing the launch of the campaign. We saw people in the rain, down the rain, and stuff like that. What's the message of the president? What those slogans, the song, the music, Joe, where I go, we tire, and all those kinds of things Joe has led, Boga has come. What's the message to him?
The message to the president that I would want to say is that Liberians are yearning for positive development. Liberians are totally against corruption. Liberians want a very firm leader that can bring about investment in this country, that can focus on transforming the young people, that look at that generation, that component of our population, and developed that population. That is the utmost expectation of Liberians as he takes leadership on Monday. Most of Liberia, most of our citizens will be listening very keenly to the president's inauguration speech on Monday. Areas that the president is going to highlight on Monday. And I would think, if his speech is not already concluded, I would think that the president needs to stress on the issue of agriculture. He needs to look at youth development from a different perspective. Why so? Because most of our young people in this country are now being fought by drugs intake because of the level of poverty in our country, because of the level of unemployment in our country. Young people embrace the intake of drugs in the form of seeking solace for their desperation or for their state of destitution. Stress that the president needs to be deliberate on how we can address these youth issues, and so that we move the attention of our young people from drugs intake to more of a STEM program in terms of focusing on technology. And I think the president needs to be very clear on the concessions that we will sign as a country under his leadership. Those concession agreements, every concession that will be signature by him should have component in that concession for youth development. Why so? Because we want, as investors come in this country and they bring their program in this country, and as they will be living, we should have capable Liberians to be able to steer the affair. And that can only be done by empowering young people. And so the president needs to be very, very clear. So the Liberian people, the reason why they took him onto the streets during the campaign, and they were in the rain, in the downpour of rain. You saw them in the downpour of rain. That was a simple message that they were expressing, that we need our lives to be better. They are not expecting that the Unity Party-led government is going to put money in every citizen's pocket. The creation of the enabling environment where even the daily laborer can be able to find his daily bread in peace is what the Liberian people actually need. So investment, looking at the conditions of young people, and being deliberate about fighting corruption, and should be the focus of President Joseph Boaga.
Great to have this interview with you. Let's close up on this note. Tomorrow morning, it's going to happen the after tomorrow. What can you say today with all of those you said, which of course should be the responsibility of the Joseph Boaga government? But in terms of expectation, what can you tell Liberians?
I think Liberians will expect much, and you cannot stop the citizens from expecting much.
Okay.
I would think that the government needs to develop a communication. Presidents start to be very flamboyant, and what have you, they will know that they don't have any space, and so you will start to experience pocket of this enchantment, all around the country. So that expectation, in terms of managing expectation, no, because the people have been encouraged for so long. The people have been encouraged for so long. So the first action that Joseph Newman see those actions. So from where I sit and from what we experienced from 2017 and what we saw happening in 2023, Liberia's expectations still remain high. And it's because of the way Liberians are treated under a particular regime. You see the way that they vote. So I think while it is true that there will be a lot of different issues with the administration, the actions taken by the president will set the basis to either reduce Liberians' expectation or to blow up. Again, Liberia is at the verge of making history. At least some of us have witnessed in our lifetime 2 peaceful transfer of power. This is a very great sign in our country. We can now be able to reference 2 of our past leaders. They become a great reference for us as a country. Need of development. The young people are yearning for employability opportunity, for capacity building. The government needs to look at that very, very carefully. And people that might be appointed at the Ministry of Youth and Sports will have to diversify youth development in this country and to...
Speaking with me, so folks, her name is Emmanuel S.M. Tamra. Sorry, Egosi